Ahoy, shipmates! How goes it? Right, we're just going to shoot a quick video. Well, it's not a quick video, but it's going to be a kind of a paint along, but I'm going to put some breaks in it using the Blanche masterclass paint sets. So this is the paints you can see in front of you. You can pause and have a good look if you like. Okay, so I've lined them up. I think it's so it's one set there, as you can see. What I'm going to do, I've got these plastic Irish, Dark Age Irish from Gripping Beast, and I'm going to paint them up, and I'm going to predominantly use the masterclass paints, and I'm going to have to add in some of the other Fanatic ones as well, because I've had a look. For an example is Ready Terror, strong brownish red. Okay, it's very similar to some of the flesh paints, but I've had a look. It's going to be a little bit dark for the flesh that I want to do, so I might use it as a base for the flesh, and then highlight it out with flesh from the Fanatics. You get the drift. Any paints I use from the main range, I keep to one side over here, so at the end we can have a recap. Right, so without further ado, I'll get on with it. So I'll show you a bit of each paint going on, and then stop the video, and otherwise we're going to end up with like a 3-hour video. All right. I'm going to put them onto a wet palette, which I'm afraid I couldn't get on camera as well. And also I'm going to use some of the medium that I mix up, which is very similar to the Fanatic medium. So here we go. Let's pop some. So this is Ready Terror. Some of these are from fit into the Triad ranges straight off. Some are a standalone paint, and they've marked the bottles up accordingly. So obviously, as you can see, this adds to the black and greys, where this one doesn't, which I think is quite cool. So once I've shot this video, I'll be rearranging my racks to add them in. From the first looks, it looks like they've quite sensibly filled in some of the missing holes. Just there, it's got decent coverage. I don't think I would probably use this as a flesh colour. Usually I would start probably one of the Triads, but the coverage is good, and it's nice to have that orangey looking brown back in the thing. Right, that's enough of the first colour. I'll see you when we put the next one on. See you in a minute. Right, so that's the Ready Terror on. I say it's slightly dark for a flesh, but we can adjust that later. So I'm going to try and work through some of these. Let's start with Ironclad Grey. See, it's going to be a dark one. Yeah, so I forgot to mention at the first bit, I've undercoated these with Vallejo airbrush. Let's do his cloak. Let's see, it's a really nice dark grey, this one. I did think they were missing this out of their thing. The other one was deep grey, and it wasn't, if you know what I mean. But it's a nice step up to this one, so I say at the end of the paint job, we'll have a look at them. It's obviously, this isn't a complete set for that I choose to use for these, but it'd be interesting to see what we can achieve and see how many of the other paints we need to add into our palette to make a interesting look. Quite intrigued how these come about. It's kind of a bit of a challenge not being able to grab the paints you want to grab off the bat. So we shall see. Anyway, I shall whip through with this colour and then we move on to the next one. See you soon. Okay, so that's the ironclad grey. It's quite a satisfying dark grey. So next we're going to go for Midnight Olive, which is a dark olive green. So I'm just going to keep jobbing about on these. Who knows what they'll turn out like. That'd be interesting anyway. Well, that's a handy olive green, that one. I know they've just released the World War II sort of sets. I can see this one is probably in there, I would have guessed. I was looking through them. I've not really seen. I had a little play with them yesterday on a Deft Red, and I must say they're sensible choices, and some of them are quite close to the what we've already got. Some hit some nice gaps. I don't think it's a standalone paint set unless you're painting a particular style, which I suppose is what they've been trying to sell us, but I'm certainly pleased with them so far. So I'll carry on working through, adding some different colours, and then we'll assess them. I'll try and I'll try and stick to just the 2 box sets till quite late in the paint job. Maybe even after I've finished. We'll see. We'll play it by ear. I just want to show you guys how these go on, and I think I'll do a follow-up video and just kind of work out where they fit in with the rest of the paints. So I'll just carry on jolloping through. I'll see you again in a minute. So there we go, that's the dry Midnight Olive, which I think is quite a good. All these paints have got, like the rest of the Fnatic range, have got a great covering. Next we're going to Sunburst Ochre, which is another add-on to the yellows. It's a deep orangey brown. It certainly is. Oh, excuse me. I was looking at the amount of colours we've got. Probably not going to get to use the speed paints that are in the set. But I'd say I'll do a follow-up video. Just I'll grab some bases and make some like paint swatches with them. So what I'll do is I'll stop the video again. finish this colour. And I think I will add, there's a flesh wash in this, warm flesh shade, skin shade, which is very like their old, I'm pleased to say, their old flesh shade, which is more like the Reichland flesh shade kind of idea. I'm not keen on the new flesh shades, in fairness. I'm quite glad that Mr. Blanche wasn't either. So I shall carry on. And this is a bit jumpy about Blue Petery. Here's one I did earlier, but it's going to save you sitting through hours and hours of painting. Which is good fun sometimes, but we've not always got time for that. Right, I shall leave that there for a minute. Work through with this colour. See you in a minute. Okay, let's put some brightness into these boys. Let's see what this Blood Moon speed paint's about. So it's not usually a colour I'd have put into these guys, but I've got a grey undercoat, so it should be a little bit muted. Well, it's a little bit moving too much, I think. I think on a white background, that'll be quite stunning. On this, it looks a bit like, it does say Blood Moon on it. It does look a bit bloody. I was only going to do one this colour anyway, just to see what it is like. Let's put a bit of load on. There we go. It's very much like the base of Blood for a Blood God. Who'd have thought it, Mr. Blanche? It's quite subtle for a got some more grey. Gets that off. For a speed paint, that's pretty subtle, I think. So maybe not useful for you. I don't think it's useful for my palette, but I think there's a few speed paints I like. There's a few that I don't like. I think that's going to go on to the second list. So while we're there, we might as well have a look at the other speed paint, haven't we? Turnbull Turquoise. Black, greenish blue. Oh, what's this one claim to be? Orangey red. There we go. I've noticed though the other speed paint oranges aren't terribly strong either. There's a couple of the reds that are alright. God, this is dark. It reminds me a lot of the Tyrian Navy. Oh, pardon me. Let's just pop a bit on there. Also, while you're away, I've put on the, as I said I would, I'll put the flesh wash over that. What was it? Ready, don't know the names. Ready Terror. When we used as the flesh. So I think it's just a tad too dark for flesh on its own. But so if you're layering it up, it's not a bad one to start with. Especially if you want that ready sort of dwarven kind of flesh, maybe. Oh, this isn't a bad colour. I'm just not sure about jamming speed paints in there. A lot of the speed paints I'll actually use as washes. That's a wash. Let's put that way. That's a wash. That's an effect paint. Okay, so there's my 2 examples of speed paint. Let's have a look again. That's the Blood Moon Red over. I must stress it's over a grey Zenithal undercoat there, so it's quite dull. I think over a white one, that's going to be quite bright. So it's not a bad colour. Just quite, probably needs using slightly different to how I have. And that's the Turnbull Turquoise. I'd say it's very similar to that Tyrion, which again, it's not an over-the-top colour. That's why I thought these sets might be usable for Dark Age stuff, because there's nothing terribly. The yellows are bright and the red is bright. But overall, there's a lot of dark blues and greens and stuff, so it's quite, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to get on with the next colour. What should we do next? We shall do. I can't really see this berry violet being used today. I just don't see how that fits in what I'm doing. Let's go for this blighted green, which is a deeper version of the, is it angel green, whatever? You know what I mean. Let's find these darker greens that if you... Oh, I've already mixed them up now. Never mind. We can sort them out later. Let's find one to put green on. Yes, him. I'm going to thin it out because I know these dark greens, if you thin them out with the medium, they work really well over the Zenithal. I'm trying to stretch the colours out a little bit now so I can get that bright red and bright yellow. Got a bit on his leg there, we'll get that off in a sec. There we go. So you can see from that flesh wash, it's made the flesh even a tiny tone darker because it's put a nice filter over it. So I'd probably go back and highlight these out. Remember, I'm only putting a single layer of stuff on as well, so I think as base layers, that's something you might want to consider, because a lot of these, it's like this one here, is one tone darker than the greens that are already in that flexible triad. So that's not a bad thing. I think some of them, I don't know if they were too worried about going too dark, or there's a lot of different artists working on it, didn't they, at the start? So they might have not wanting that dark look that Mr. Blanche did. So, yeah. I've seen the sets go. I've not seen any doubled up. I got the complete set when they were first releasing Fnatic, so I've got everything that's not come out, been released in a kind of separate box, as it were. And these are the first ones I know of that are got different paints in it. They did some with different labels on, like a D&D one and stuff. But I think they're just, I stand to be corrected if I'm wrong, but I assumed that they were just relabeled rather than new paints. There we go. So, I think we'll leave that green like that. And well, I might paint another one. I'll see you in a sec. Okay, so that was the blighted green. You see it's a little bit wet still on there. That's it on his tunic there. There we go. Right, now we're going to go for some colour. Now we're going to go fiery vermilion. Now, I used some of this yesterday, and it is quite bright. Let's get his... I wonder if I thin it out and use the Zenithal as an undershade, how well it works for us now. I don't mind historical miniatures being a little bit bright. I think people tend to paint them a little bit drab. You certainly go drab in this with this two boxes. But again, there's plenty of there's like a nice dark wash. One's green base, I think. I'll have a look at them. So you can always, if you've painted something that's very bright, you can always tone it down. That's not an issue at all. So, and they did have bright colours. Not like the Wizard of Oz. Colours just didn't suddenly appear in 1972 or something. You get sort of medieval and even the Dark Age stuff. There's a lot of people that dye with the dyes that were around at the time. They might have not lasted like the dyes we got today, but certainly were there. Right, with that said, I will carry on playing with this red. The coverage on this red, I'll just add a little bit to it, is I don't think it's as good as the ones in the range at the moment, because it's not in that flexible triad, but it's kind of redder, if you know what I mean, because I think to get the coverage they've probably added a grey white or something like that, just to add to the opacity, and I don't think it is in this one. So this might be good for a highlight on top of those rather than a base colour. As you can see, the red usually will cover this up quite a lot, but I've been looking for a red to add. I say there's a lot of orange in this vermilion as well. There we go. So I shall return with the next colour. So as I was running out of bits to paint on these, I decided to jump to Moonbeam Yellow, which claims to be a vivid orangey yellow. Just to put some brightness into these guys, because they did use a lot of yellow. And it's going to be quite a bright one, but as I said, you can put a wash over it, etc, etc, etc. Or you can thin it so it shows some of the grey through it. I think probably for... Yeah, I'll hold fire for a minute from what I was going to say there. I'll just pop this one on, and probably going to do this one bright yellow because it is very bright. It'll probably look better over... What's the other yellow? Sunburst ochre. Probably use it as a highlight for that, maybe. But this is definitely got to remember what palette this is, and it's not really I don't think it's probably with this in mind that they've made this palette, but it's good to see how useful it is to us in case you were thinking about getting one. Yeah. I nearly went again then. Did you see? I nearly was going to say something again then. I'll wait until towards the end. Right, see you soon. Right, so that's the yellow one. I knew they'd be quite bright for this project, but didn't we all? So the next one is the darkness, which is a deep green blue. Let's see. We'll run out of victims now. So I'll do this guy's shirt. Not amazingly different from the looking from the grey, but that's cool. I'll see you again in a minute. Okay, so that's the what was that one? The darkness, which is a very dark grey blue. You can see the difference now, they're drying off between the grey. Next we're going to chuck on some Tainted Garden. This is, yeah, I wonder who that's Tainted Garden. Yeah, let's check it on his cape. Let's do his shoes first. See how different it is from that other green. Not massively, but enough, I think. It'd probably do as maybe a highlight for that one, or a mid-tone. Is that red smoothed back a little bit now? Which is cool. It's quite a challenge after you have got such a range of paints to choose from, the whole range. Is all of a sudden you go back just to a few bottles and you've got to try and paint all these guys. It's a bit of a nice challenge. There we go. I should get on and do his cloak, and I'll see you again soon. Okay, so that's that Tainted Garden. That's a little bit white. That's it dry. So next I'm going to grab Banshee Brown, which is ruddy brown, black reddish brown. And I'm going to do all the kind of belts and stuff with this one because it's the only kind of leathery thing. It looks very much like Doomball brown, maybe, or Rhinox hide, something like that. Unsurprisingly, there's a lot of that going on in this set. So we just wanted to get all these to like a base layer on kind of situation, so we can. There's no doubt there's going to be gaps in over the two sets, but hey. We all love getting new paints, don't we? So I shall go round. I'm going to chuck this brown at stuff. And I'll see you again when I've done that. See you in a minute. Ahoy, so whilst I was away, I've done the heavy metal, which is like a dark gunmetal. I like that one, so that's pretty cool. Also, I've used the Emperor's Gold for their brooches, and some of the buckles. Again, I like that one. And also, I've done some white bits with an ivory white, which claims to be a very pale yellow. So the only paints we haven't used are the blanched berry, which doesn't really fit with these miniatures, but I've not put any rust effect. I used that yesterday on the Dreadnought, and it's a very good rust effect. Slightly yellower than their other rust effect. These washes, I've not put any of those on yet. So you've got the Voodoo Shade and the Grim Dark Shadow, which I can't remember which one's which. This one I think's got some, yeah, that's a very black with green in it. Well, that's a brown with green in it. Again, I won't put it on these because I don't want those colours on there. Okay, so I've used all of those colours on these. I've not used any from the main range, so I've not done any layering up. So let's have a quick look of what we've got. And then I'll kind of give you my opinion for what it's worth. Remember, these are like all just base coats because obviously I've not layered anything up or put any washes on. Again, I didn't paint the wood in because the only real straight brown was that bouncy brown, which I used for the leather and some of the hair. So I can add these because I'll finish these off camera and put them up on Facebook and X and Blue Sky. Okay, conclusion time. I like the paints. I think they've set out with a goal with the sets to obviously paint in a blanche style, which I haven't done today. I've just painted like a straight, yeah, let's get them painted. If you've got the Fanatic paints already, there's some really good additions to the triads you've got. If I was going to buy these paints individually, I probably wouldn't buy the speed paints for starters. The rest, although I like the rest, I've already got other rest ones in there. It's good, but probably wouldn't buy it. Wouldn't buy the shades. Again, this is a good colour. Don't know. I always think it's a bit of a cop out when people put a white in. It claims to be a very pale yellow, but it's definitely, there's whites that are very similar to it. Bony Spikes is very similar to it. Blah 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 blah. So metallics are very good. Yellow and red, they're a bit strange because I can see why they've done them, but they don't quite fit in with the triads, but I'd like them anyway. Skin shade I like. On the whole, all the others I think fit in. So out of the two boxes, there's one that I wouldn't buy, was white. Definitely wouldn't buy the speed paints. Wouldn't mind having the Grim Rust. So maybe 5. 5 or 6 out of that, 2 sets out of the 20, I don't, not that they're not good paints, I just wouldn't find a use within what I paint with them, if that makes sense. When you look at this guy here, for instance, I think all those colours are very good. With maybe a light tone wash over him, he's pretty much done. I think, again, same with him. He's got the speed paint on him, which again, it does kind of work. So you could sneak it back in if you wanted. But I think all in all, I think they're good sets. Would I buy them as standalone sets to use? I'm not I'm painting my own style, so I'm not buying them for that style. So I can't obviously comment on that. Would I buy them to add to my set? Well, I have really, haven't I? So that answers that. Are they? I think the quality's there for to match in with the Fnatic range. I believe they're all going to be eventually added to the range, and you can buy them separate. That would be good. So if you don't want to, if you can wait, that's pretty sensible. I can't wait, so I have to have them. So I'll put up with having those 6 in my collection that I might use once in a blue moon. I mean, yes, I'll use a white up. Yes, I can throw some rests on some of the 40k stuff I paint. And I'll probably use that Turnbull turquoise as well. But the others probably not so much. But hey, why not? Right, I'm gonna go now. Hopefully that's been useful. So do look us up on Facebook, X, or Blue Sky, because I will post these up there. If I have been helpful for you and you want to support the channel with a subscribe and a like, that'd be very kind of you. And also check us out on, oh, sorry, I was wobbling the camera there. Check us out on our own website. We've got one where we sell the miniatures off, which is piraterichpaints.square.site. And obviously our other channel is Pirate Rich Paints as well. Okay, guys, well, thanks for joining me. Hope you made it to the end. Hope that showed some of the colours. What I'll be doing is I'll make another video where I just paint them onto swatches and I try and match them up with the closest paints in the range, so you can decide whether they're for you. Hope this will all be helpful. Cheers then.